just being really weirded out about the third floor and hearing things that I shouldn't have heard.
Okay, it's cool. We're cool.
Alright, let's
We're
try
cool
this.
for now.
Let's try this.
Cause no, I got you, Mike.
You guys ready?
Yo, you scared the
No.
dude. No. Don't
Yeah,
turn the light.
no,
No,
let's go, let's
turn the
go.
light on. If you believe in ghosts, you're in good company. People and cultures across the globe believe in spirits that survive death, sometimes moving on to the afterlife and sometimes getting stuck in the limbo of our material world. The idea that the dead remain with us in spirit is an ancient one, appearing in countless stories from the Bible to Macbeth. As far back as 1855, ghost clubs dedicated to discovering evidence of spirits have formed at prestigious universities, including Cambridge and Oxford.
Ghost hunters use many methods to detect the phenomena, often including psychics. These paranormal investigators claim to be scientific in their methodology and often use high-tech equipment such as Geiger counters, electromagnetic field detectors, ion detectors, infrared cameras, and sensitive microphones. But have any of these self-proclaimed experts uncovered any actual evidence for the existence of ghosts? That's what we set out to uncover in this episode of
Is That For Real?
Perfect.
Well, there's a bit of background information for you. And that takes us to the topic for today about ghosts. Are they real? Are they just in your imagination? Are people seeing what they want to see? What do you think, Diasis? Do you believe in ghosts?
I think there's something going on there.
Yeah.
I definitely do. Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me, given your personal experiences that you've had, and we're going to talk about those.
There's too much weird shit going on, man.
Yeah, in this episode. Now, I do want to make clear, before we get into why and what people believe in the evidence, how we're defining a ghost, because to my surprise, there's more than one definition for a ghost. I actually found two distinct classes. There are people...
Really?
Who believe that ghosts are the traditional, these spirits of people who have died that have not moved on to the afterlife for one reason or another. But there's also a school of thought that ghosts are telepathic expressions of the individual's mind. Not just them making stuff up in their head, not
cool.
just imagination, but telepathic expressions, which we'll talk a little bit about later.
Thinking about my boss. Yes, got it.
But that actually kind of makes more sense, and we'll see why. In my skeptical brain, that has more logic behind it than the dead spirits thing. Diasis is the believer. I'm more the skeptic. Neither of us is 100% on either side, and we're not going to tell you what to believe. We're just going to present the evidence for and against and let you make your own decision. So let's go ahead and roll the segment on the statistics about ghosts, why and what people believe, and then we'll talk about it. In a 2013 Harris poll, it was found that 43% of Americans believe in ghosts. Additionally, a 2009 Pew Research poll found that 29% of Americans say they felt as if they've been in touch with someone who has died, and 18% say they've been in the presence of a ghost. Popular TV shows like Ghost Hunters, now in its 12th season, have millions of viewers, demonstrating a lot of interest in the topic.
So apparently the Ghostbusters need to come out of retirement.
Apparently.
Seriously.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people
Yeah.
believe in ghosts. When we started this show, and the first one we did is on psychics. If you haven't seen that, go watch it. so many people believe, because I've always been skeptical. I mean, granted, I was raised in a very religious household, so I used to believe in stuff like angels and demons and stuff, conservative Christian denomination.
Definitely demons.
But I was still skeptical about people's stories about things like ghosts and stuff. And when I finally gave up on my conservative religious background in favor of my more skeptical beliefs, if you can call that beliefs,
Yeah.
I've just
Or lack thereof.
assumed that it was only hardline religious people who believe these things. Not true.
Yeah.
Not true at all. Most Americans believe in the paranormal in one form or another.
It really goes across the board. And that is the interesting thing about it. You know, you have people who are highly educated,
Yep.
highly secular, people who don't come from that background, just everywhere, you know, who still believe.
Yep, they do. And like you said, we covered it in the last episode. Doesn't matter how educated you are, doesn't matter how wealthy you are, none of that matters.
No.
People still believe a lot. So that's really fascinating. Now, when it comes to ghosts, you've got all these popular TV shows, like Ghost Hunters, probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
It's in its 12th season. It's been on the air for 15 years. 2004 was its first year. But
Really?
I don't know. I've
Isn't that
never
long?
seen it, but it skipped like a couple of years or whatever.
I've seen
and came
it.
back.
It's interesting.
Yeah. What do you think about that? That's normal people, right? Normal people trying to find ghosts.
It's not like Scooby-Doo where they catch him at the end, okay? That's all I'm going to say about that. You got a
Right,
lot of interesting hoopla there in between, and then they, you know, find it at the end, oh, well, maybe it was this, that, or, you know, we ran out of, you know, videotape for the last one where we actually saw the ghost, and they never end up catching him. But there's always that weird, uncanny valley thing where there's something going on
Right.
that you just can't put your finger on.
Right. I read a skeptical description of Ghost Hunters that was like, still looking for evidence that isn't there 15 years later. I mean, just, okay, I get it. But hey, it's a great show according to the ratings. People love it.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting.
But what is the evidence for ghosts? Now, we have a number of segments.
That weird feeling that you get.
We have a number of segments that we're going to play. They're very interesting. But before we play the segments, which are all personal ghost stories from people we know, including
true.
Deasis himself,
Yeah.
and you caught a little clip of a video we're going to play at the beginning of this show, and we're going to play the pertinent parts of that clip. It's very interesting and also funny as hell. You guys were great.
I'm telling you, man, I heard voices.
I believe-
we all
I
heard it.
know.
We all heard the voices.
I know.
The dead plants, that was creepy as hell, man. What the hell was up with the dead plants?
And everything he's talking about, you're going to see when we play
Yeah.
that towards the end of the evidence. But before we play all those segments, I want to say this. The belief in ghosts is ancient. All the way back to Mesopotamian culture, 3500 BCE. There are documented recordings, you know, in stone tablets, things like that, of people's ghost stories. This isn't new. Ancient Egyptians go back to 3100, and they had all these beliefs in ghost stories and the afterlife and all that.
I would say about every ancient religion believed in some type of an afterlife that you go to after you die.
Yeah, if you
All of
believe
them.
in
It
an
was
afterlife,
universal.
there's got to be a
I
soul.
mean, what's the point
right?
in religion if you don't, right?
Yeah, good point. There's not much point. And if you believe in a soul, then you can believe in ghosts. Because if there's a soul that leaves the body, maybe
Why
it
not?
gets stuck here for one reason or another. But as far as hard evidence, I just got to say
the
up
hard
front, I couldn't find any. There's a lot of YouTube videos. There's a lot of photographs, but that stuff's easily doctored. So
Hard
what I
evidence
just
should really be named like difficult evidence.
Yeah.
Because it's like really hard to get a hold of.
So what I decided to do is start asking people that we know for their stories. Like, have you
Yeah.
ever had any experience with this? Because 3 out of 4 Americans, 43% believe in ghosts, 3 out of 4 believe in the paranormal. Surely people we know have these stories. And they did.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Even I got a couple myself.
yeah, and he's going to tell his, and we're going to
As
play.
a semi-skeptic, I still have some weird stuff that happened to me that I'm like, okay, I know I didn't make that up.
Yep. I know you do. And he's going to tell you all about it. We're going to play the recording of him and Mike at the haunted house. But first, let's
You really
play.
don't have to, man.
Oh, it's so good. Let's play this segment about a story of a ghost that was in a table in Dallas in 1973. Very fascinating. A friend of mine sent me this personal account.
That one is really, really neat.
Yeah, so let's play it.
It was a quiet afternoon in August of 1973 at the Dallas Medallion Pier 1 store. Weldon Maxey managed the store at the time. Little did he realize that the simple act of a merchandise refund would propel him on a journey to meet a 16th century ghost. A customer returned a table to the store, asking for a refund, claiming the table was haunted by a poltergeist. He related to Weldon that when he arose in the morning, he would find his water faucets turned on, or religious objects in the house lying on the floor, or turned askew on the walls where they hung.
Upon inspecting the table, Weldon noticed that one or two areas felt warmer to the touch than the rest. The table had arrived 60 days earlier as part of a shipment of antiques from England. It was, however, the only item in the shipment that did not appear to be of English origin. The table caused quite a stir when 2 Dallas newspapers ran a story on it. Hordes of people came to view the haunted table, many with offers to buy or at least rent it for use in spiritual practices. Intrigued by all the attention, Weldon took the table to a spirit medium. After viewing the table, the medium drew a picture of the head of a girl with a vase of flowers. The images she felt were emitting from the table.
Weldon was invited to appear on a local television show with the table. The two hosts were John Criswell, a believer, and Susie Humphreys, a skeptic. Susie was vocal regarding the table's purported hotspots, claiming they were caused by hot spotlights in the studio. So the table was moved into a separate room without studio lights, and the room's temperature was set to 50 degrees. Later, Susie returned to the cold room to check on the table and was shocked to find that yes, the table was cold, but the hotspots were still there.
Hans Holzer, a noted parapsychologist, traveled to Dallas to inspect the table and arranged for a local medium, Sadie McCollum, to assist in a seance around it. Sadie was an automatic writer, a medium that is believed to be compelled by an unseen spirit to write down the spirit's thoughts. The table's spirit was asked who it was, and in reply Sadie wrote, "I am William Vladistok of Prussia."
Hans explained that in addition to a spirit, an object may also retain the memory, not the spirit, of a previous owner. So a second question was asked. Is there a memory of a previous owner in the table? Yes, wrote the ghost, a blonde, blue-eyed child of 7. She placed fresh flowers on me for 40 years. Weldon was astounded, since the first medium to inspect the table said the images of a girl and a vase of flowers were being emitted by it. Only Weldon's wife and Weldon himself knew about the first visit, not Hans or Sadie.
Sadie then released the ghost from the table, freeing it to move on to wherever it is that spirits not trapped in this world eventually go.
Now that is how you sell a table. Right there. I need to get into furniture sales after listening to that.
It's not in this segment, but this is 1973. He had a guy offer him $1,500 in 1973 for a table that's smaller than this one, because in the picture it shows he's holding the table by himself.
How bad do you want your in-laws gone?
Man, you can get a
$2,500 right here.
You can get a nice dining room table for $1,500 in 2019.
Yeah.
So to get $1,500 for it, but he turned it down. The guy was smart. And now that's kind of where my skepticism comes in, though. That, okay, was this just a stunt, like a publicity stunt?
It worked.
For the store. But man, some weird stuff happened. If what he said is true, you know the part that got me? Weldon takes the table to that first spirit medium.
Yeah, that was trippy.
Who draws a picture of the girl and the flowers. And the only other person who knew about that was his wife, not the parapsychologist and not the automatic writer, Sadie, the spirit medium they used to ask the table questions or the ghosts or whatever later. And yet, Sadie relays to him that the previous owner was a girl who used to put flowers on the table. What are the odds? If that's true,
That's pretty neat.
That is pretty wild.
Yeah.
You got any other thoughts about that one?
No, that's trippy.
It is. It is trippy. And this, I have to say this because all these stories are from people we know. I do not directly know Weldon,
Right.
but I know his cousin. And his cousin got the story and the pictures and the newspaper clipping and all that from Weldon and sent it to me. So this is not firsthand, but secondhand
Right.
experience from somebody that I know to be a reasonable, rational guy. You know, so it's impressive to me. The detail is impressive.
I wondered about it till I saw the pics, and I was like, wow, okay,
Yeah.
that looks pretty legit.
All right, so let's get to the second segment. It's another personal story. This one is from someone I do know personally who told me the story personally. The name has been changed to protect the innocent.
Names
But
have been changed.
yeah, this is her personal story. So let's roll that and we'll talk about it.
A woman, we'll call her Sarah, had a night cleaning job with a friend of hers. The two ladies would clean an office that had a large quantity of World War II memorabilia, which Sarah believed was responsible for the ghost of a small boy that occupied the building. The boy would regularly appear in the corner of her eye, saying simply, "Help me." The first time she saw and heard it, she screamed. Both women were religious and would sing hymns out loud while cleaning in an effort to ward off the spirit, which Sarah said helped most of the time, but not always. Despite the ghost only being seen out of the corner of her eye, the voice, she said, was clear and unmistakable.
Help me!
Eventually, both women quit the job out of fear of the ghost.
If this had only been one lady alone at night in an office who saw and heard this little boy,
Yeah.
I would be 100% skeptical, and we'll get into a lot of the reasons why I would be skeptical later. Now, it could still be because of all the reasons that are provided by skeptics for the sight and sound of ghosts, that's what's going on here. But they both
heard it.
see
Yeah.
and hear the little boy. Now, they see her. She told me that because I asked her
That
directly.
definitely changes the game right there.
It
when you both
does.
hear something.
And they don't just hear something, they hear the same thing. They see the same thing, but they do see it out of the corner of their eye. At least the lady who told me the story, she said, I only ever saw it out of the corner of my eye, but the voice was clear and unmistakable. It was the voice of a little boy saying, "Help me." They both hear this. They're both religious people. They try to sing hymns to ward off the spirit. It works most of the time, but not always. And they finally just quit the job because it freaks them out so bad.
Right. See, that part I actually do kind of believe that they both heard it, because in that dumb ghost video where me and Mike thought we were the Ghostbusters, and that's why you don't do that stuff at home, kids. This is why you don't pretend to be the Ghostbusters, so you don't scare the hell out of yourself.
Good things you guys didn't have an unlicensed particle accelerator.
God, oh man, we would have blown the house to
that
pieces,
house would
man.
have been gone, man.
Damn it!
Gone.
What the hell?
And again, you guys will get to watch that video coming up.
But yeah,
It's something. You guys said that you heard voices. Now, I want to make this clear.
yeah, we all heard. All three of us heard the voices at the same time.
Not me, Deasis Mike, and the guy who owned the
Yeah.
house. These two ladies together in the same place hear and see
Yeah.
the little boy.
Yeah.
I do not doubt at all that these people actually saw and heard something. What I'm skeptical about isn't the seeing or the hearing, and we'll talk about why when we get to the skeptic side. What I'm skeptical about is the reasons they saw and heard this. But it's definitely more compelling that they both
Right.
did.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I thought, like I said, I immediately thought about the video that me and Mike did the other night where all three of us were in that house and we all heard the voice at the same time. So I do kind of believe, that part of the story where they say they both heard the voice, because I've had the same thing happen to me.
With the
least twice.
exception of your two stories that you're going to tell
Yeah.
us, where you were by yourself.
Yeah.
All of the stories I included when I did the research, they're multiple people. Because to me, a single person is too easy to dismiss or write off. But multiple people seeing and hearing the same thing provides a more credible story than one individual. And the next segment, let's roll this story. This is about a whole family of people who hear the same thing. And these were reasonable people. So let's go ahead and roll that one and we'll talk about it.
We want to thank Andy for being on the show, and she's going to relate a couple of ghost stories to us now. So go ahead, Andy. Tell us about the first one about the house.
Thank you for having me. When I was growing up, we lived in a house for about 11 years. It was me and my parents, and I have 5 siblings. And we often had cousins staying with us. We had cousins that lived with us for a short period of time, and then we had other cousins that would stay for times in the summer. So there was always a whole bunch of kids in the house, and we lived in a 2-story, well, it was actually 3 floors, a duplex, and there was a thin alleyway between another house that was similar. And my bedroom was on the 2nd floor. It was the middle bedroom on the 2nd floor. And one night I heard my name being called in like a stage whisper. And it sounded like it was coming from the alleyway down between the houses. And it freaked me out. So I went downstairs and I told my mom, and my dad, who was a police officer, went out there to check. And my mom came back upstairs to calm me down and to pray with me, because I was brought up in a strict Christian family. And my father couldn't find anybody, but I was still hearing it when we went in, even though my dad was in the alleyway. And my cousin also heard it. I don't remember if it was this particular time, like this first time that I heard it, but she was with me on other times when I heard it. She heard my name being called, and my older brothers also heard their names or other things being said when there wasn't anybody there. And there was lots of other activity in the house. And I remember my mother relating a story, something years later, after she made me feel like I was nuts. But
just so I'm understanding this correctly, your mother also has admitted to experiencing things too.
Yes, she has related stories that are actually a little juicier than that, but I don't want to share for her privacy.
Okay.
But yeah, she definitely did.
Did you ever feel any, the typical ghostly feelings of when other people experience things like this, like temperature changes, anything like that?
There was always the feeling of dread when we went to the 3rd floor, and a creepiness about the basement, but I think that's true of all basements. Just being really weirded out about the 3rd floor and hearing things that I shouldn't have heard or had no explanation for hearing.
All right, so instead of a gun, maybe he should have had one of those particle accelerators.
The proton pack, right?
I mean, either way, the ghost got the hell out of there.
Yeah. But again, this wasn't one person. This was the whole family heard the same thing at the same time in the same place, and her dad was a cop. He's not some drug addict, homeless guy who has some kind of emotional or mental issues. And this is a cop.
Yeah, I mean, most people who know police officers, and I know several of them, will tell you, that they're extremely level-headed, even in situations like that. And I mean, the ones that I know, same thing, just very level.
You would
Very
have
rational
to be.
people.
I mean, look what happens in the media
Yeah.
when a cop isn't level-headed and rational.
Right.
You know, so they have to be. And the dad goes out, gun drawn, expecting to find
I mean, that
somebody.
almost looks like a scene from a horror movie when I hear it. you
Yeah.
know? I mean, I can't imagine how scared I would be hearing a voice. We all heard it. Out there with your gun drawn, in the dark in an alley, nothing.
Yep. And Andy, and keep in mind, this is someone we know personally.
Yeah.
Here, lives nearby.
Yeah.
She told me that she tends to be skeptical, but she just hasn't found a way to explain what's happened. And a lot of weird stuff happened in that house.
I believe it. I believe it.
If it wasn't just one person, I mean, if it was just one person, it'd be easy to write off.
Yeah.
But it happened to her, her family, her sister. She told me kind of, it's not funny. It's funny now, but it wasn't funny at the time.
Yeah, hell no.
Her sister was in the bathroom, sees what she said was a ghostly hand come around the door, like through the door.
I would literally move.
She freaked out and ran with no pants on out of the bathroom. Like it would have to be serious for you to
Yeah.
run half naked out of the bathroom.
Well,
This isn't because of just some bang or noise you hear. I mean, it would
we
take
were
something
talking
pretty
about
serious,
that off
I
camera,
think.
you know. Why would a kid make that up?
Yeah, because she was 11 at the time. I
Right.
believe Andy told me when that happened. Why would she run out of the bathroom like that if she didn't actually see something?
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing for a kid to run up and say, "Oh, I saw something." It's another thing for a kid, out of just pure terror, to run out of a bathroom unclothed,
Yeah.
you know, because something scared the hell out of them.
Yep.
That, to me, makes it a lot more believable.
So you've got the voices, you've got the thing with the bathroom. Andy said that they used to find stuff moved in the house, like it was out of place and that nobody was home
I'd
to
walk
move
in and I'd
it.
be like, "All right, Ghost, you win. I'm out."
Yeah. Now you
Keep it.
So this was adults, her parents, her sister, at least 4 people who heard the same thing. The dad was a cop, rational, reasonable, goes out there to find the voice. There's nobody there, but they can still hear the voice coming in. She said this used to happen frequently. This was not a one-time event. Stuff used to get moved. The sister ran out of the bathroom, and it wasn't just when Andy was a kid. Let's play the next segment where she tells a different story that happened that's also really strange.
Yeah.
And I understand that you have a second story involving a duck.
Yes, it's actually a wooden duck. My husband and I, we had been married, I don't know, 5 or 6 years at that point. We were going to book a trip. We were looking at Spain. So we were booking our flights. We were looking at the flights to go over to Spain. And on my television, that was in an entertainment center, so it was enclosed, I had 3 wooden ducks, and I have a little affinity for ducks. And the middle one was bigger than the others, and it came flying off the television at us and landed about 6 feet away from its beginning point between me and my husband. We just kind of looked at each other and said, "Guess we won't go." And we stopped booking the trip and said, why don't we stay inside the US? And the flight that we were looking at actually crashed. The first one, it was me and my female cousin. The second one was me and my husband. Because a lot of people think that women are just like emotional and not analytical at all. And actually, I think Jamie believes more than I do. I'm the bigger skeptic of us. And I want to find reasonable explanations. And I think that's because of the whole "it's demonic" thing.
Right.
So
What was, just out of curiosity, what was your husband's reaction?
we both looked at each other at the same time, and we were just like, holy shit, like that just happened. I guess we won't go.
So Andy's had quite a few strange experiences. And I'll say it again, she identifies as skeptical, but there's just stuff that's happened that she
You might
can't
want to call The
explain.
Exorcist.
Yeah, it's just strange. And the fact that the plane they were getting booked on but canceled at the last minute kind of reminds me of the Titanic, remember? From our first episode. Parapsychology episode, you got to check that out, Psychics and
ESP.
Parapsychology. A lot of weird stuff happened with the Titanic that's similar to what Andy told us here.
When ducks tell you not to get on a plane, damn it, you listen.
If it walks like a duck and flies like a duck, don't get on the plane.
It's not a duck.
Probably not a duck. And the plane crashed
Yeah,
that they would have gotten on.
that's
Wow,
just
weird
eerie.
stuff. But it's not just Andy. You have some stories, and I want you to talk about them, which interestingly surround your dad and your dad's properties.
Yeah, it does.
So when we talked about that it seems like this stuff seems to revolve around certain people or certain places. So why don't you tell us about your stories?
Yeah, I've got two. So I'm going to talk about the first one. Summer of 1995, I think, or 1996. I was at my dad's house in Florida, and there's been a lot of stuff that has happened in and around there that my stepmother has witnessed. And my dad is like you. He's a hardcore skeptic. He laughs it all off. But I've seen some stuff that I can't laugh off. So summer 1995 or 96, I'm at my dad's house, and he's at work. It's summer vacation. 12, 13 years old. And I'm watching a movie. And there are 3 gusts of wind as I'm watching this movie that seemed to come out of nowhere. The AC wasn't on. All right, it sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy.
It's okay.
Maybe there's an explanation for it. I don't know. I'm just going to tell you what I remember. I'm sitting in there and I'm watching a TV show or movie. I was watching a movie, actually. I don't remember what movie I was watching, to be perfectly honest, because this freaked me out and I did not care about the movie afterward. But I distinctly remember feeling 3 sudden gusts of wind blow around the living room. And after the third gust, because the third gust was the most severe, it blew the papers off of the counter. My stepmother at the time, she was a businesswoman, so she kept a lot of her documents and papers that she would bring to work the next day and review when she got home on the counter, which wasn't far from the desk in the kitchen and all that stuff. But anyways, 3 gusts of wind, and the third one was the most severe, and about 2 or 3 papers blow off of the counter. So I'm literally sitting there, and I'm like, okay, what the hell? And then the third one, hear the papers fall, and I just get up and I run out the front door. And that scared the hell out of me. I actually...
What I find interesting about that one is the papers.
Yeah.
Because air conditioning isn't strong enough
No.
to knock papers off a counter. A fan could, but there wasn't a fan in the room.
No.
So I'm like just... My skeptical brain is always searching for reasons, explanations. Why would this have happened this way? What could have caused it? But I just don't see AC doing that.
Yeah, and...
Unless something was wrong with it.
Well, yeah, and granted, the vent does not sit too far from where her papers were.
So that's a new piece of information.
Right. But the AC was not on.
Okay. You didn't hear the hum or the buzz?
No,
the
I didn't
airflow
hear the
or-
AC kick on or anything.
Okay.
I'm sitting there watching it. And like I
And
said...
you wouldn't have
there's-
freaked you out if you had, because you would have assumed it was the AC and not run out the door.
Yeah, and the AC would definitely not have created the 3 gusts of wind. 3 distinct gusts of wind.
Did you feel like the
Yeah.
wind? Was it a circle? You could feel it moving?
yeah.
How did that work?
It literally almost felt like just 3 quick whirlwinds.
Gotcha.
I mean,
Because that's how
it's-
you just always describe it, as a whirlwind. So I assume it's like a circular motion of air.
It sounds crazy, but stranger things have happened. Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. So that's one of the things that kind of somewhat makes a believer out of me when it comes to ghost stuff. That's one of the experiences that I had that really kind of made me say, okay, what the hell was that? So yeah, 3 gusts of wind. Third time it blows 2 or 3 papers off the counter, and I just jet out the house immediately. I go over to the neighbor's house, and I don't remember what I told them or whatnot, but I did not come back in there. I think I left the door wide open. It freaked me out so bad. I just ran out the damn door and left the door open. And I didn't come back for like 2 or 3 hours.
Right.
Until my parents were about to come home. Right. Yeah.
But that's not your only story.
No.
When you were significantly older.
Yeah.
You had another one. Was this at the same place or at a different place?
No, this is at a different place. So my dad had a shop that used to be his house that he converted into his shop. He, as his business expanded, he added on to this house until it became a pretty decent shop.
What kind of work did he do? I don't think I ever asked you that.
Yeah, my dad, he's in Tampa. He runs the biggest business in the area for fixing and repairing paint sprayer machines and pressure washers.
Right, gotcha.
And, we're talking about the big commercial rigs and stuff like that, and it's decent money, actually.
Right.
So his business started to expand, and he started to get bigger. So eventually, he kept that shop as his backup shop, and I had moved back to Florida at the time. This is 2001, 2002.
How old were you at this point?
I was about 18.
18.
2002, I was 19, and I'm living there. So I'm living at the shop, and it's just me. My dad would come there occasionally to pick up tools or haul equipment or store equipment. And I would hear in the back of the shop, in the back room, which was closed off from the rest of the shop, and it was a pretty good size. And you had chains in there, you had tools, heavy equipment, you had commercial paint sprayer rigs and pressure washers and all that good stuff, hardware tools. I would hear noises occasionally at night. And sometimes my friends would even hear this stuff when I was on the phone. I'd be on the phone talking to them, and I'd be like, "Did you hear that?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, I thought that was you." I'd be like, "No, that's like yelling and chains and stuff banging around in the back." I'd go to the back. Nothing was moved. Everything was quiet. As soon as I closed the door and walked back to the front of the shop, to where my room was, bang, 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 all kinds of crazy racket. And again, I know this sounds crazy. I don't expect skeptics to believe this until you see it, because I'm somewhat skeptical myself. But after witnessing this stuff, I'm somewhat a believer now.
Pushes the needle when stuff like that happens, right? Yeah.
So one night in particular, I'm sitting in the front of the shop, and I'm laying in my bed, okay? And I start hearing that stuff start up again. And this time it scared the living hell out of me. It always did, but this time it lasted for probably 30 to 45 minutes, and I was actually praying the whole time. I was praying.
Yeah, because you also were raised in a conservative religious...
I'm praying to God. I'm saying, "Jesus, take the wheel." Help. And slowly it went from that to just help.
Right.
I was afraid to even leave the room. I was sitting there literally with a machete and baseball bat.
Because this was in a bad neighborhood.
Yeah, it wasn't in the safest neighborhoods.
Not a good neighborhood.
But I'm only hearing it from the back. And like I said, this is not the first time this had happened. And there really wasn't a lot behind the shop. You had a yard, and you had some junk, and then you had an alleyway that nobody ever came down, and the back of a building. I wouldn't even call it an alleyway. But... yeah.
There was.
There wasn't that much traffic there at nighttime. It was mainly an industrial park, so you didn't have a whole lot of commotion. That was up the street. But this, like I said, this night in particular, you just heard chains slapping the wall. You heard stuff. It sounded like people were hitting the back wall with baseball bats, and you heard moaning and just groaning and people yelling and just chains slapping and stuff like that for 30 to 45 minutes, and I was praying.
And you told me that you had been on the phone with friends on different occasions
Yeah.
who would also hear the voices. Because
Yeah.
that's important to me,
Yeah.
that Deasis wasn't the only one who heard
No,
it.
they'd hear it and they'd be
They
like,
would
what was
hear
that?
it.
I'd be
Yeah.
like, that's what I'm talking about. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's what I'm trying to tell you. There's something going on with this shop.
Right.
Because my friends, of course, they're not going to believe that until they heard it. And they're like, wait a
Right.
minute, what was that? I was
Yeah.
like, did you hear that?
That's
They're
it.
like, yeah, I did hear that. Thought that was you. No, it wasn't me.
And just another qualifier, all the noises you heard,
Yeah.
with the exception of the voices,
Yeah.
could have been the
could've.
equipment that was in the shop, like the chains
could.
and the banging.
Definitely.
It could have easily come from those things.
Yeah, and here's the funny part about that. So, needless to say, when I finally did fall asleep, because I did not move, I don't even think I went to the bathroom that night.
Mm-hmm.
I was scared out of my mind. I was praying like hell.
Right.
It scared the hell out of me. Nothing was moved around. I went in there
Gotcha.
the next morning, and I opened that door, and I'm looking
You
through that
expected
back.
to
I
see
was
everything
like,
just a
what
mess,
the
yeah.
hell happened
Right,
last night?
right.
Nothing was moved. And it's just, that was creepy as hell.
That's really interesting.
It was.
Particularly because other people heard it too.
Yeah.
Now, no one else experienced the whirlwind thing, but the fact that other people heard this, again, in my mind, gives it more credibility. I have one last question before we play the video of you and Mike. How old was the house that you were in?
Yeah, that house that had been converted into a shop was built, I think, just after World War II.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, the house was from at least 1947.
Okay. So 55-ish years old.
Yeah, and this is Drew Park in Tampa, Florida, and anybody who knows the neighborhood knows that used to be Drew Field, and it was active during World War II. So this is
That's I didn't make that connection before because
That's right.
Sarah, who did the cleaning job, it had a lot of World War II memorabilia, and she
Wow.
always attributed the ghost to that stuff.
Wow, yeah, good observation.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Drew Park, and anybody who knows Drew Park knows that originally it was Drew Field. Drew Field was built during World War II or during around the time of World War II and served as, barracks bumpers, training grounds for World War II soldiers.
And if anything, if you believe in psychic energy, spirits, anything like that, if anything is going to cause that level
Right.
of disturbance, it's going to be a major war with millions of casualties, incredible heartache,
Yeah.
incredible injustice, all those kinds of things happening
Right.
at a time of war. So if you're a believer, it probably doesn't surprise you
Yeah.
that happened. Okay, now that's interesting.
Yeah. It is.
And skeptics, hang on, because we're going to get into all the reasons why some of these things may have actually happened and why Deasis and Andy and Sarah and people experience these kinds of things. But before we do that, Mike is Deasis' roommate, and they went to a bar. What's the name of it?
Oh, Reboot.
Reboot, which is that's like
man.
one of
Arcade
your favorite
bar.
places here. Yeah,
Yeah, I love it. It's awesome.
Love that place. I haven't been, but they love it. It's a big deal.
Winston-Salem, Reboot, check it out.
They meet a guy who he works at a hospital, right?
Yeah, he works in the medical field, and I've talked to him a couple of times, and, he was wearing a suit, claims that he had just came from an exorcism on his house. He looked real nervous, and he says, I don't think it worked. And I was like, well, why? He's like, because some shadowy figure was crawling up my back porch when I was sitting outside after the exorcism, and it freaked me out. He's like, I hear voices here all the time in this house. And he said, I came up here to, just have a drink because I don't want to go home. And so I'm like, oh, wow, well, we're doing an episode on that. Let's go be the Ghostbusters.
Let's go check it out.
So I talked Mike into it.
Uh-huh.
Because, that's the stupid shit that we do sometimes. And, next thing you know, we're like, okay, time to go.
Yeah, so let's play that video because Deasis recorded it, and then we'll talk about it.
Are you like sure?
It said sheep.
So like this chair.
Yeah. It said sheep.
Hey, hello?
It never goes.
I mean, that's crazy as hell, though. So the chair was in the middle of the floor.
Yeah, the spikes,
when we came in.
The spikes never go this high.
And you're saying the plants were alive?
Yeah. Dude.
Like, no bullshit. The plants were like better than that. Because like now they're all dried up looking and shit. Yeah. Hey, so Mike, and like seriously, so we heard this shit. But as soon as we walked in here, we heard a voice.
Right,
Like, get quiet
exactly.
as soon as we walked in.
Bro, it's spiking crazy.
Yeah, I know. It's acting way crazier than it was at Reboot. Hey, so check this out. So we're
At
at
Reboot,
Reboot. It wasn't doing
completely flat.
shit.
It was
Yeah, it wasn't
completely
doing
flat.
shit. No, it wasn't.
It was flat like this. It was, well, no, it was like completely flat. Like there were no spikes at all.
Hey, so how come you got like a flashing red light? Like, what is that, the security system or something? It's flashing red.
That's a security system. Chains.
'Cause
It
it's-
just said chains.
Chains.
Chains. Dude, it's
Chains.
saying way more. It said nothing at Reboot.
It said nothing at Reboot around all the noise.
It said ghosts. Remember? We were talking about ghosts?
Wait, it
Oh,
said
you got
she?
chains.
Wait a minute. So it said chained?
Yeah.
And then what did it say a minute ago? She?
She. Chained.
She, chained. Because it wasn't doing shit.
Yo, did you hear that?
Like, are you serious? You f***ing around?
No, I'm dead serious. Dude, I heard something.
I've been hearing noises too.
Yeah,
Like
let's
I heard
look at
something
it.
in there.
Come on, dude.
Wait a minute. I'm curious about this shit. Because we're going to be doing an
Right.
episode.
What's it say? Yeah, no, you're right. Let's go. Let's get the out of here, dude.
I'm just,
Oh shit.
what?
It never spikes like this, bro.
Yeah, this is the time when you
Look at
leave,
the
dude.
plants. They're all dead.
This is the time when you leave.
Yeah,
To
but
the black man.
aren't you curious?
No, not right now.
Not anymore?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well,
I'm good.
hey, so where's this porch? Where's this porch where you saw this crazy shit crawling around?
The thing that crawled up my back steps,
Yeah.
like 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
Now it's down to nothing. That's weird.
Okay, it's cool. We're cool.
Alright, let's
We're
try
cool
this.
for now.
Let's try this.
Cause no, I got you, Mike.
You guys ready?
Oh shit! You scared the
No.
dude. No!
No.
Don't
Yeah,
turn the light.
no,
No!
let's go, let's
Turn
go.
the light on.
No.
No! Please turn the light on.
No,
Please turn the fucking light
bro.
on.
No,
Okay.
no.
Let's go check it out, bro.
No, we're done. I'm done.
No, wait. Can we just do it with the light on?
Come on.
We're not doing
Okay, you
this
got
shit.
the
Whipping
flashlight?
Nope, I'm done.
I'm scared shitless.
Dude. Oh shit.
Yeah, it's just, come on, let's
Come
get the
on.
fuck out of here, bro.
No, follow me.
Nope.
No, let's go back to the back room.
Nah, Diasis, come
I
on.
think-
Dude, I'm good.
I think.
Oh no! Look.
What?
Look.
What?
Yeah,
What's it
yes, I'm
gonna
good.
say?
Let's go, bro.
No, as soon as I started walking back.
Yeah.
Do you want me to turn the light back on?
Yes, please.
Alright. I'll turn the light back on.
If you could, please.
Yeah.
Because that scared the hell out of
Yeah,
me.
please.
What did it
Did
say?
you
I don't
Hear
know.
that?
It's
As soon as I turn the light back
Yeah.
on.
hear that?
Yeah,
It said
Still forgot it, bro.
sunrise. It said sunrise.
yeah.
Like the light's coming back on. It
Yep.
said sunrise.
I'm good. Let's go.
Dude, no, come here. We're doing an
No, no, no.
investigation.
Nope, no
You guys are doing a
investigation.
podcast.
Like, I'm not that buzzed. I'm buzzed, but I'm not that buzzed.
I'm good. Let's go.
Like it went from
It just said
fun
drag.
to like,
It said
we gotta
drag.
get the out of
I know,
here.
It said drag.
I know, I'm a drag.
So what? She chained, sunrise,
Sunrise,
drag.
Yeah.
Dude,
What the does that mean?
are we being harmed right now? Come here.
Well, not yet. No.
Yep, I'm good. Let's go, bro.
You wanna go?
Dude,
I'm done.
I thought we were...
You hear that?
What the
Yeah,
f***
I
is
heard that. Yes, let's get
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you hear that?
Dude, come on,
Yes, I
come
heard
on,
it. Come on.
it
I think we're gonna.
We're gonna bounce.
We might come back.
Yep.
said- Wait, I left my card at the bar. I have to go back with y'all.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you hear that?
Why are
There's
y'all freaking
noises.
Because it shit ain't normal.
That's fucking crazy.
I don't know. Come on, let's get the out of here, bro. Let's go.
You serious?
Yeah.
You serious?
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna.
If you want to come back to the bar, come on.
All right, let me get my keys.
That was insane. You live here? Yeah, I don't know why the you live there,
freaking out.
dude.
Why wouldn't
Because we
you
heard a
freak
voice
out?
while we were walking
Yeah,
out. Did
we
you
heard a
not
fucking
hear somebody
Yes, I
talk?
heard it. That's what I was trying to tell you the whole time.
Dude, how the do you sleep in this place? If there's something strange creeping in your house, who are you gonna call? Not Diasis and Mike. Never again.
I love Mike.
I'm not
Mike,
doing that shit no more, man.
Mike is so funny. The stuff he says.
Yeah, we're funny as hell when we're scared.
I mean, he's like, listen to the black man.
Yeah.
We got to go. You know, I love Mike.
Yeah.
That guy's just so hilarious. But I get you guys look legitimately freaked. And when the guy turns off the light.
What the hell? Why did he do that shit?
Hey,
There's already dead plants in the house. That was freaking me out right there. There's a chair in the middle of the room. It's this old ass house.
Yeah.
We already heard voices.
Now, that's
all three of us
interesting.
heard that shit.
It was his grandmother's house because I watched the video the first time. And after I was done laughing my ass off, I started...
Get her! We had no plan, man. We didn't know. We were like, shit. What are we doing here?
I started freezing the frames and looking real closely at the frames. I'm like, this is an old person's house. I'm seeing like doilies and figurines and pictures, black and white pictures of a little girl.
I think he was
and
renting it from his
asked you-
grandmother or something.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's like the family house.
So I know you don't know, but how
Yeah.
old is this neighborhood that they're in?
It was pretty old. I don't know exactly how old, but the house definitely was not new. And apparently, he says all this stuff started happening after him and his grandmother were working on a tree in the backyard.
That's right.
Yeah, they were like cutting up an old tree, and they found some kind of carving on the tree that said, "Here lies Chris." They found some old box or mini coffin or something like that, he said.
Like maybe a pet or something?
Maybe.
Yeah.
He said it, definitely looked like some type of a coffin. He said it was really old. He said, but it was still distinguishable enough. His grandmother's super religious. She had a bad feeling about it, threw it into the fire. He said, I think that pissed him off.
Okay, now...
We're not professionals, guys. Okay?
That's important. She had a bad feeling about it.
Use your own imagination.
How did you feel when you walked in the house? Because like immediately
Yeah.
you said you heard something. So and Mike
all
was
did.
clearly spooked.
Yeah, no, we all did. And that kind of set the tone, right at the beginning. Because
Right.
as soon as we open the door, we hear, it sounds like a conversation.
Oh.
It sounded like two people talking that suddenly got quiet. As soon as the door opened, it's like, I was...
Man,
Okay, we're
woman,
like
could you tell?
women.
Kids, older, younger, any
It
Women.
says she.
women? Okay.
Yeah. And, they got quiet as soon as the door opens.
How did you feel? Because I've read all these stories about how it feels to be in a haunted house. How did it make you feel?
I'm gonna tell you the truth. I did not like the feeling. It was a morbid type of fear, and granted, and to support the skeptics out here, it could be my own, placebo effect, like we talked about in the
Right,
last episode, just messing with me really bad. That whole survival, fight or flight instinct, but it was a horrible, eerie feeling where I felt in the presence of something dark and greater than me.
But it wasn't just you. It was the guy who lived there. It
Yeah.
was you, and it was Mike. Again, not one person. We got three
Yeah.
people. They
We all heard
hear
the voices at the same time.
Yeah, you
We're
hear
like,
the
okay, what
same.
was
And I
that?
know it's
What
in
was
the
that?
video when you guys react to the voices. And Mike's like, "We got to get out of here. We got to
Yeah.
get out." Of here. And I wish he wouldn't.
He
have
was
said,
the only smart guy.
I
out of
wish
the
he
three of
wouldn't have
us.
said that. Yeah, he was at that time, at that moment, because there's one little blip. I was really just combing through the audio and the video, and right after you say, or right before you say, "Did you hear that?" I can hear what sounds like a little segment of a voice, but it's too short to make it out, so it could have been something else. But
We
then
definitely heard stuff.
Mike immediately says something, and it
Yeah.
powers the voice, so I couldn't actually hear it.
And I don't
if it was
know-
anything to hear.
And I don't know if it was an elaborate prank. I don't know what it was or if it was completely legit, but I will say we heard voices.
Yeah, I will say
We
this:
definitely heard voices.
the app the guy used is bullshit. The app is bullshit.
Okay. I
I
want to tell
looked
you.
into it. We tried. We downloaded it. We played it. It's supposed
We
to.
did.
It just randomly says stuff. It's nonsense. But that doesn't mean there's nothing there. It
Here's
means
the
that
crazy
app
part.
has no actual meaning. to
Okay, I know. And yeah, that's true. And I'm going to let you finish. Kanye West. But we were at the bar And we had the app sitting on the bar for probably 2 or 3 minutes. Nothing. We go in the house, and that damn thing is going crazy. And that did freak me out. I'm not going to lie. That
No,
did.
I could see why it would freak you out.
And, we talked about it off camera. Granted, that could be, the whole, oh, well, it didn't have any specific noise to pick up on. These apps are designed to, for their shock value. Okay, granted. Because it was not doing a damn thing in the bar. As soon as we get in the house, it's going crazy. It's spitting out all these weird random words that seem completely related to what's going on.
Like
and
the
we're
sunrise
oh,
thing, yeah. I
Yeah.
got you. Yeah, I got
yeah,
you.
car, drinking. It's like, whoa, okay, what the hell?
All right. So I get it. I still think the app is bogus, but I can see why you guys were freaked out. It was so. Thank you.
I
for
won't
letting
use
me
it
watch
alone
that.
at night.
Yeah. So that's DeAces and Mike and.
Trying to be Ghostbusters.
Yeah, trying to be Ghostbusters. But what do you guys think? Leave a comment for sure. Before we get into the skeptics' response to all this, and not just their response, but some very interesting evidence.
I want to say this too.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the guy whose house we went to, he claims that the plants, because if you saw the video, I was talking about the plants a little bit, and they were all just kind of dead looking when we walked in. He's, again, I don't know if this guy was seriously messing with us, but he claims that those plants were alive when he left, and they looked just fine. And that was creepy as hell, that they were like just hunched over when we walked in. But
If he was
you be the judge.
If he was pulling an elaborate
Yeah.
prank, it was an elaborate prank
It was
because
one
he would have
hell of
had
an
to have
elaborate
stuff
prank.
playing so you guys hear voices. The plants being dead, the app showing the
Yeah.
words that it showed. I mean, but you guys were already kind of in a state where he was telling you about it. We were doing the show, I mean, all of the above. Regardless of whether it was real or not, that was one damn entertaining video. Thank you very much. And we're going to be doing more live on location stuff because I was looking into it, and there's a lot of places in the area that are purported to be haunted. And so, of course, I'm going to send DeAces and Mike to go film that stuff for you guys so we could check it out. And
Really,
talk about it.
John? It's okay, man. You don't have to.
Okay, but I got two things left to say. One, I have a difficult time believing anything on video
Yeah.
or audio because it's so easily doctored, photography so easily doctored. However, that's one of the things that most skeptics will say, well, you should have tons of video and audio for this stuff if it's real, and it should be able to be verified, certified, whatever. But it occurred to me, devil's advocate here, that camera equipment can't necessarily see ghosts for the same reason that humans can't hear a dog whistle. A dog whistle, you blow it. A dog hears it just fine because it's super high frequency, but it's way outside of the range of human ears, so we don't hear anything, right? Now, a camera is great at taking a picture of a plate of food. You know this if you're on any social media, and people take pictures of their food. Why? What is that about? But they do. However,
oh my God, it's so cute.
the camera does not capture the smell. But does that mean the food has no smell just because the camera can't capture it?
That's a good point.
And so I was thinking, well, if people are seeing, hearing, feeling, sensing ghosts or spirits or whatever, is it really that big of a stretch to believe it's because people have receptors in them?
What if
that
they
just-
don't want to be seen?
Well, that doesn't exist in electronic equipment. Just like a camera can't pick up a smell, maybe you can see a ghost, but a camera can't because what you're seeing isn't in the normal visual light range or something. Just like a dog whistle is out of the range of human ears,
I think
but
you
the
had
dog can
mentioned,
hear it, but we can't.
Yeah, and I think you had mentioned infrared, ultraviolet.
Infrared, that's right. We can't,
can't see
see infrared, ultraviolet, but there's equipment that can pick it up if it's got the right receptors. So maybe people have the receptors necessary, and in some case animals, because there's lots of stories that animals freak out around places that are supposedly haunted.
Yeah.
If biological creatures have receptors that camera equipment or audio equipment does not. Devil's advocate. There you go.
Makes sense.
So that's one. The second thing, I just want to read this real quick, and then we'll get into all the contrary opinions. This was left as a comment on a Guardian article. I'm just going to read it verbatim because it's funny and interesting. There is as much scientific evidence to support the existence of ghosts as there is for black holes. Pictures purporting to be of what are called ghosts or black holes exist. Ghosts, black holes, are claimed to have been seen by a small group of people. Ghosts and black holes have observed effects on their surrounding environment, things flying through space, power drains and surges, changes in temperature, etc. No one has managed to capture or create a ghost or a black hole for laboratory study or indeed at all. The cause of the perceived presence of a ghost or black hole is subject to many theories, each claiming to be correct. Now, this was attributed to a guy, Malcolm Minchin.
I mean, it's a good point.
Interesting point. Okay, so all the evidence, stories, personal stories, you and Mike's hilarious episode of playing Ghostbusters. Which Ghostbuster are you, if you had to pick? Which would you be?
Man, I'm Vakeman.
Yeah.
I love Vakeman.
You're totally Vakeman.
all the way.
I'm definitely Egon.
Egon.
I'm definitely Egon. Mike, of course. You know, Winston.
Winston.
Yeah. Winston was my favorite of the Ghostbusters. You know,
He said, if there's a steady paycheck in it, I'll believe whatever you want me to believe.
Absolutely. He was like the skeptic's agnostic, right? You know,
Totally.
Yeah, totally. I loved him. He was awesome. Just good actors. All of them. Fantastic actors. Great movie. I like them both. Not just the first one. The second one got a lot of flack, but I thought it was good too.
I
Not
like them
as
both
good,
too.
but they're both good.
I liked them both too.
Good movies. All right, so evidence against. We'll start, it's on the last page, and we'll start with the black hole. Someone responded to the black hole versus ghost comment with this. Malcolm Minchin misses a fundamental point which distinguishes science from superstition. Black holes have been observed in repeatable conditions. If a scientist sees one and tells you where it is, it will still be there for you to observe. Whereas a ghost, you go back, well, it's not there anymore, where you just weren't here at the right time.
That is a fair point.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
But the most interesting stuff comes from why people see, feel, hear, and experience ghosts. Like I said, I have no doubt that in many cases people are actually seeing what they think they're, meaning that they're seeing something, they're hearing something, they're feeling something, but why? There's three big reasons why. The first is electromagnetic fields. And you remember watching this. You want to say a little bit about it?
And you know what's funny? Because it reminds me, to go back to Ghostbusters, it reminds me of that scene where he says, "Are you the gatekeeper?" And he said he's telling the truth, or at least he thinks he is.
He thinks he is. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, electromagnetic fields. In the 80s, neuroscientist Michael Persinger, you saw this show, right?
I have actually, because I used to watch this stuff even when I was a kid. And they would, in the late 80s and early 90s, do a lot of ghost show material, and in the episodes they would be testing for electromagnetic fields. I mean, they were the real Ghostbusters in a sense. And it didn't look as flashy. They would basically they walked around with a bunch of equipment that detected stuff, and they'd be like, okay, well, here's an electromagnetic field here, if I remember correctly. I mean, it's been 30 years since I've seen this stuff, but there's an electromagnetic field here, and well, if you notice right here on this wall, there's two, at least two right here and on here,
and the reason why that matters, the reason why electromagnetism matters is because this neuroscientist, Michael Persinger, he did a study in the 80s, and it was published in Nature, a very well-known, popular, skeptical magazine. He would put helmets on people that put electromagnetic fields that targeted the temporal lobes with a weak field, and found that 80%, no joke, 80% of people would feel an unexplained presence in the room when he does this. Now, this is why that's important. Where does everybody say they see and feel ghosts? Old
houses,
buildings, old houses, stuff like
buildings.
that. What is in Old buildings and old houses. Old wiring.
Yeah.
Wiring is insulated, but over time, insulation deteriorates, just like everything else deteriorates. In the past, the standards weren't as good, so the stuff they used to insulate the wiring wasn't as good. Therefore, in old buildings and old houses, what do you get? Electromagnetic fields all over the place, and if that's not repaired and the electromagnetic field is hitting your temporal lobe, guess what you're going to feel? An unexplained presence in the room.
So basically, we're paranoid.
So that's number one, but it's not just electromagnetism. There's also what's called infrasound. Infrasound are sound waves that's too low for the human ear, as opposed to too high like a dog whistle. This is too low. However, even though you can't
Would that
hear
explain
it,
why pets start going off in the presence of supposed ghosts, and humans are sitting there wondering what's going on, but they have an eerie feeling?
Could be if it affects them in the same way. I had a dog when I was a kid, little ugly little thing. Loved him though. My first dog, Isaac. He was missing half the hair off his back. I don't know. He probably had some disease. I don't know. I was a kid. I didn't know what to do. But he was a sweet little.
He was
thing.
an ugly ass bastard.
Hey, he was a sweet little ugly ass dog. But every time I knew when a bad storm was coming, I didn't have to check the weather as a kid. I didn't have to check anything.
Really?
It could be beautiful outside, but I knew that night a bad storm was coming because the dog would freak out and he would run and try to hide behind me when I was sitting on the couch or on a chair or something.
so
He's
weird.
little, he'd hop up and hide behind me. And when that happened, I knew a storm was coming. As I got older, I used to wonder, could he hear? Because dogs hearing miles away, low frequency travels really far. It travels through solid objects if they're not too dense.
Yeah.
Very, very far,
See,
which
I
is
didn't
why
know that.
elephants can hear each other call from miles away because of that low frequency sound can travel really far. I always
didn't
assumed
know
the
that.
dog could hear the low frequencies of the storms coming and it would freak him
Pretty
out.
neat. Yeah, maybe.
And that's called infrasound.
I mean, they definitely hear better than we do.
Much better.
Way better.
Vastly better than we do. So infrasound, you can't hear it, but it's been shown in studies that some people can feel it. Like you can feel it and it affects you. It causes nausea, disorientation, and a feeling of general unpleasantness. And in one 1988 scientific paper, an engineer named Vic Tandy investigated his own experience and what he thought was a haunted lab. He was working there. Everybody in the lab they would say they had feelings of distress, depression, cold shivers. They would hear sounds coming from unexpected places. And Tandy himself, he even saw an apparition. He thought he saw a ghost. So he starts to investigate. He's an engineer. He's a, logical, critical thinker. He found that he and his colleagues were sharing their lab with a low-frequency standing wave caused by a new fan in the extraction system. And he concluded that a 19 hertz standing air wave may, under certain conditions, create sensory phenomena suggestive of a ghost.
Wow.
So you may not be able to feel the electromagnetism. You can't see it because it's outside of your range of vision. You may not be able to hear the infrasound that's below your range of hearing, but it can affect you and has been proven to affect people in ways that can create
Wow.
what people believe are ghosts. But we're not done. Old houses.
But wait, there's more.
There's more. What else do old houses sometimes have? What do you think? That grows in it.
Well, mold.
Mold. There are certain kinds of mold. One study found that mycotoxins is what they're called. It's toxins produced by a certain kind of fungus or mold. Can lead to delirium, dementia, pain. You can feel pain from this. Movement disorders, balance and coordination disorders. Thus, older houses that have poor wiring, mold, if you live near places that have infrasound or you work in places that have infrasound, all of these things can create in your brain what you really legitimately see, even like Tandy saw the ghost.
Right.
See, hear, feel, all of it. It's not that you're not really seeing, hearing, or feeling anything. You are. But what you're seeing, hearing, and feeling isn't necessarily a ghost. It's just caused by all these other things. And
Our minds are totally unreliable, basically.
they are. And we're going to talk in just a little bit about why that's the case. But the last thing is there's a TED Talk given by journalist Carrie Poppy. She thought she was being haunted, right?
Okay.
And you can go look this up and watch it. Excuse me. She felt like she was being watched. She felt a pressure on her chest. She would hear whooshing sounds. Sound familiar?
Wow.
And cried every night. She posted about her experience on a forum for ghost skeptics who told her it sounded like she had carbon monoxide poisoning. So she calls
Really?
a gas company. Guess what? Carbon monoxide in the house. And
John, you didn't tell me about this one.
she's not alone. Several other haunted houses have been discovered to be the site of carbon monoxide leaks.
Yeah, I know nothing about carbon monoxide except for that you fall asleep and you die if you don't detect it. So,
If it's small doses that
Yeah.
don't kill you, all these other bad things can happen.
yeah, side note, if you have any kind of gas heat or an old house or anything, really,
get
get a
that stuff
carbon
checked,
monoxide detector. It's literally like the best $15 you ever spent money on. It'll save your life.
This
Anyways,
place, this
side
house, was built in 1940.
Yeah.
And so we've got them in the house because you have to. You just don't know. Most of
the
the stuff
ghost
is
at,
redone
man?
and updated.
Where's the ghost?
Well, we tried the app and it didn't
Oh,
work.
shit. Damn it.
It didn't work. Okay, so those are the
We're
reasons.
counting on you guys.
Skeptics would say those are the reasons why old houses, old building, industrial complexes, things like that tend to have ghosts. It's because of electromagnetism, infrasound, mold, and carbon monoxide.
I
That's what
gotta
they would say.
admit, the counter arguments are pretty good here. You know?
Then you've got there's a little bit more, and then we'll talk about why your brain sees these things.
Okay.
Sleep paralysis. You've had that, right?
Oh God.
Describe
Yeah.
that for people because it's really freaky.
It'll
It's happened to
scare
me
the
too.
shit out of you. Yeah, I've had it a few times. I've probably had it maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 times.
I've
in
had
my
it
life.
twice.
Yeah, I've had it probably 5 or 6 times at least, and oh my God, I hate it. First time I had it, I felt like I was trapped in my body. I'm like screaming for help. I'm trying to get my body to move, and I coming from, we both come
Yeah.
from very religious
Yep.
backgrounds. What happens? when you're
Demons.
Christian? Demons.
It's got to be the demons. Yeah. Oh,
It's
yeah.
like,
That's what we
please.
were taught. Everything was demons. Yeah.
Literally praying to get out of this. And
Right.
as I start to awake, I come out of it and I'm like, you want to just move all of a sudden. Yeah, sleep paralysis sucks.
It does suck. Yeah.
Any tips you got on how to avoid that shit, please let me know. Because I hate it.
I used to practice lucid dreaming, and we're going to do an episode on that because it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating. He's one of the lucky SOBs that every time he dreams, it's lucid. But you're
I
right,
didn't even
brain.
know. Yeah, I didn't even know a lot about
Yeah.
that until you started telling me I'm actually lucid
Yeah,
dreaming.
you're a lucid dreamer.
You said that's a right.
It happens to Beth too. It's a right brain thing.
Right brain.
I'm very left brain, so I have to really work at it. So I used to work at it. One of the side
His
effects
wife
they
is
would
an artist,
say-
by the way.
Yeah, she's brilliant, very right brain, very creative. Same thing,
Yeah.
like you.
We're
But-
both into art.
I used to practice this lucid dreaming where you try to actively become consciously aware in your dreams. And one of the side effects they said in advance, like, look, if you're going to do this, you might have sleep paralysis. That might happen. Be prepared for it. It's going to suck. But
Hell no.
Don't freak out. Just try to go back to sleep and you'll be
Nope.
fine. So the first time it happened,
Yeah.
I knew what it was. I was expecting it. It was okay. It sucked ass
Yeah.
because I couldn't move, I couldn't talk, I couldn't scream. But I'm a logical thinker, so I'm like, okay, I read about this, I know what this is. I just need to go back to sleep. So I just closed I didn't close it. I couldn't open them.
Yeah.
I just let myself fall back asleep. I woke up, everything was fine. But the second time
Yeah.
it happened was years later. This time, while I was going through what I now believe was sleep paralysis, and this was back when I was still a conservative Christian, still believed in demons, the whole thing, I felt like somebody was choking me. And that freaked me out. I thought it was demons. I did the whole begging God for protection thing.
I wake up swinging and fighting, man.
It was bad. It was bad. And it finally stopped, and I passed out from exhaustion. I was in a cold sweat. And I thought something bad had happened. I later found out some bad juju on the house I was living in, so I thought it was demons,
God.
the whole thing. You know what? It was an old trailer, and it's just occurred to me. Old 10 by like 60, 65 foot trailer that me and my roommate lived in from the 60s. Nothing has worse wiring in it than those old trailer mobile homes from the 60s and 70s. It was probably either electromagnetism or mold. I was a broke ass dude, a young dude at the time, so I couldn't afford anything nice. It was probably that. But I thought it was demons because of the guy who used to live there was really messed up, I found out later, and we finally moved out of the house.
You just reminded me of something, and, going to go through this real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I knew an old lady. Her name was Miss Pearl. She was cool as hell. She used to talk about struggling with sleep paralysis and having bad feelings at this really old house that she lived in. Mm-hmm. Well, she was, I think, Section 8 or welfare. And, she had applied, I think, from the Housing Authority to get a new house and all that. Well, they finally approved it. And so they tore her house down and built a newer house after that because she felt like there were demons in the house.
Right.
Sure enough, she spends the rest of her life in this new house that they built. This is in the late 90s, early 2000s. Never had sleep paralysis again. Never had any more problems.
Now, to play devil's advocate and be fair, believers say that, okay, maybe that is some of it. Maybe some of what happens is electromagnetism. Maybe some is mold. Maybe some that does happen. Of course, it could. Yeah. It's been shown in a lab to happen. It could. But that the primary reason why it's always in old buildings is because physical objects can store psychic energy, like the table having the memory of the previous owner. Yeah. And how would the medium know about the girl and the flowers, right? How would it know that? I mean, if it's just electromagnetism or mold or whatever.
Plus, these houses and these buildings have a lot of history. People may have died in them, all kinds of stuff. I mean, who knows?
These major experiences like World War II that cause all these psychic connections and disturbances and so on. Or back to Ghostbusters, like the hotel the high rise that was built by the guy who was the cult leader.
Ivo Shandor,
right?
Lightning rod.
So they of psychic energy, lightning rod of psychic energy. So they say yes, that's part of it, but that doesn't explain all of it. That only explains some of it, and that of course older buildings with history and that stored collective energy are going to exhibit these things more than a new building, which hasn't had any time to store anything up. So that's what they say.
Also a good point.
That's what they say. Now, why do people usually see ghosts out of the corner of their eye? Because I asked Sarah.
Even that one I'm a skeptic of.
Yeah, I asked Sarah about the little boy, help me, World War II memorabilia, which interesting connection, all that. I asked her, so did you see it directly or out of the corner of your eye? Because I'd already done the research on the skepticism side. And she said, yeah, it was only ever out of the corner of my eye. Why out of the corner of your eye? Let me tell you why. This is what skeptics say, and I tend to agree with this. Psychology Today did an article where it explained it. Each eye has a blind spot about 18 degrees. So if you look straight ahead and try to cast your attention to what's on the corner of your eye without actually looking that direction, everything's going to be fuzzy, blurry, indistinct. Your brain is a powerful supercomputer. And it is going to dig into the recesses. Yeah, quite. Well, because it wants to protect you.
Yeah.
It's part of evolution. It wants to protect you. If you die, you can't spread your DNA. You can't make more babies. You can't, keep the genetic line going. So
story ends.
So you see things that you don't really see because your brain goes back into its memory and says, okay, I see this fuzzy black thing over here, which in our case is the camera on the tripod. But in the corner of your eye, that could be anything.
If you're paranoid and it's already dark, that can be anything you want it to be. This over here, it's like, oh crap,
Yep. If it's dark or low lighting, you already believe in ghosts
And
because
you
you're
will
raised to
swear that
believe
you
in
saw
ghosts.
something move or dart at you.
Yep. It could
Or
be
look at you.
anything. And your brain is going to find those memories, those belief systems, and apply that to that blur it sees out of the corner of the eye, which is why most people who see ghosts never see them head on
Yeah.
or directly. That's not always the case. And in fact, Deasis has a story when we talk about shadow people on another episode.
Yeah.
Where he
I've got one of those
swears
too.
it was dead to rights.
Yeah.
Dead on. But most people, corner of the eye, and the skeptic would say that's why. It's a blurry image in that 18 degrees. Your brain's trying to make it fit something that it knows about. And if you already believe in the paranormal or ghosts and such, and you're in a state where you're already scared because it's dark and you're in an old building with mold and electromagnetism, what do you think you're going to see? A ghost. So that's what they say. Now, the next point is all, if you saw Ghost Hunters or any of those shows, Ghostbusters,
Yeah.
all this technology and equipment they use, like the EMF field readers and the ghost boxes and all of this audio and video equipment, they look super high tech. This is really scientific. But none of that equipment has been proven
Yeah.
to measure anything other than the forces they were designed to measure that are actual physical forces in the world and universe in which we exist.
Yeah.
So if they don't really
We're
mean
using the
anything-
known to look for the unknown.
Yeah, that's very well said. Very well said. You're using the known to look for the unknown. And the last point that I saw the skeptics make, and there's two great articles that I'll link to for those of you who are either skeptics or who are believers just looking to counterbalance your own belief. I'll put the links to those articles in the show notes in the description. One of the articles ends like this. Like, look, the evidence for ghosts is no better today than it was a year ago, a decade ago, or a century ago. There are two possible reasons for the failure of ghost hunters to find good evidence. The first is that ghosts don't exist, and that reports of ghosts can be explained by
This shit is real.
they can be explained by psychology, misperceptions, mistakes, and hoaxes. The second option, and I got to give them, because this is on livescience.com, got to give them snaps for saying this. The second option is that ghosts do exist, but that ghost hunters are simply incompetent and need to bring more science to the search. So if you're a believer, I was very impressed with the guy who wrote that livescience.com article, or maybe the lady, I don't know who wrote it, because they were fair. They were like, look, if these things are
What
real,
about the
if
third
they...
option, John?
All right, what's the third option?
Because they don't want to reveal themselves.
I know you say that a lot, and I get it.
They don't want to be seen. These guys are introverts, man. That's why they hide in dark houses, wanting you to just leave them alone.
The skeptic would say that's fine for you to believe that, but that is what's called an
They just kinda pat me on
unfalsifiable
the head.
assertion.
Okay, yeah,
It's
that's okay,
unfalsifiable. So they're not going to take that as evidence. That's what the skeptic would call a cop-out.
It's true.
Oh yeah, they just don't happen to be here because they don't
They don't wanna
me
be here.
because I'm a skeptic. It doesn't.
They don't like skeptics.
I get it. All right. So after all this, having read it all, seen the stories, are you any moved either direction?
No, I started to be more moved towards the ghost side, and then, after talking about honestly, the damn good counterpoints about old houses and just it causing hysteria,
It's compelling.
paranoia, yeah, those are, got to be honest, those are really, really good arguments against it.
Yeah.
But I still don't think that explains everything.
Yeah. That's what the believer would
I
say.
still think that there is a gray area here,
Yeah.
which is why I think this topic never dies.
For me, I started off being skeptical because I'm skeptical by
Yeah.
nature. Then I heard all these stories and Weldon's story and Andy's story and Sarah's story, and I started to kind of like, wow, I know these people. These are intelligent people. These aren't drug addicts with mental problems that,
Not people usually.
forget,
prone to
I hate it
delusions.
for those people that they suffer from these things. That they're not these people, yet they experience all these things. But when I dug into the skepticism side,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, they are seeing something. They are hearing something. They are feeling something. But it's caused by these forces.
But it's
that
not
can
what they
explain
think.
it. It's not what they think. Yeah. And I'm a big fan of philosophy. And I watched a great TED Talk about this, about how we are all hallucinating the universe. And what the guy meant by it, and it's important to understand when it comes
That
to...
kind of stuff will drive you crazy, man.
Well, when it comes to the paranormal, think about it. You're looking at the screen. You're looking at Deasis and I and this table and a microphone and whatever I have back there at the moment. You think you see color. You think you see shape. You think you see things.
Damn it, John. Don't start that again.
But all it is data from the forces, from the atoms, electrons, protons, molecules, light, photons, all of that. It's going into the receptors
We
in
know
your brain.
nothing.
Your eyes, your ears, the stuff you feel, your butt sitting in whatever chair you're in. None of those feelings, none of those sights exist outside of your brain. Your brain has constructed a 3D model complete with sound and color and feeling and the whole thing out of the data that pours into it. There's not really color out here. There's not really shape out here in the way you think of it. It's your brain producing a map. And to prove that, cover one eye and look at something closely and then remove that and look at both eyes. Suddenly you go from very two-dimensional sight to three-dimensional sight because your brain is compiling the data from both eyes into a 3D model, which it can't build when it's only got the picture from one eye. It needs both, which is why people who lose sight in one eye lose depth perception, makes it hard to drive, gauge distance, things like that. Same thing with your ears. You can tell where sound is coming from because sound hits the first ear just a fraction of a second before it hits the second ear, which informs your brain when it puts the data together that that's the direction it's coming from.
Bad guys in there.
Or which roughly, or above or below or whatever. I have a bad hearing problem in my right ear. The right ear doesn't work very well at all. From when I was a kid, I used to have these ear issues and it just caused problems. So I have a very difficult time telling where sound is coming from. And I have to be more careful because of that, because I may not be able to tell. Like if there's an ambulance, which direction is it coming from? I have to look around and be cautious in a way that you would just immediately know, oh, well, it's from the other lane over there. I don't know that always. Sometimes I do if it's loud enough. So I have to be more careful. My point in telling you all that is if something happens that either messes up the data going into your brain or messes up your brain's ability to process that data, you will legitimately see, hear, feel, touch, taste things in the worldview of your vision right in front of you that aren't really there. There's no data for it, but your brain has a toxin in it from the mold. It's being affected by the electromagnetism.
Or you could be interpreting that information inaccurately.
Yes, because it's fuzzy, and your brain, being the supercomputer it is filling in the holes, filling in the gaps to try to push something in your field of vision or in your hearing or that you touch or whatever to make that 3D model. But it doesn't always get it right, which is why humans are so fallible and their ability to judge and discern based only on their senses. And that's why scientists swear by laboratory tests using machines that are designed to pick up on data that we can misinterpret because of the sloppiness. As genius as the brain is, as powerful and amazing as it is, it's fuzzy.
I mean, you're right. They tend to completely disregard and not rely at all on subjective, feelings or thought process because to them, it's worthless and unreliable.
Yeah, it can't be repeated.
It's not credible.
Can't be tested. Isn't credible.
Makes sense.
That's why. And the skeptic would say, same thing with ghosts. You're seeing something. You're hearing something. You're feeling something. That's all real. It's just not what you think it is.
Wow.
So where do you fall? Do you believe? Or do you believe that what the skeptics have to say make it pretty easy to explain away? We'd love to hear about it in the comments, as always. Well, I feel like this was a pretty good show.
Yeah.
A lot of interesting
Definitely.
stuff.
Yeah. Interesting counterpoints.
We are definitely sending you and Mike back out.
Oh, no. No.
On location,
It's okay,
people.
John.
On location.
Wait a minute. I got to talk to Mike.
Oh, he'll do it. He'll do it.
No. Like, tell him.
All right, everybody. If you want to see Deasis and Mike go on
No, they
location
don't.
more, let us know
No.
in the comments.
No.
But in the meantime,
No.
don't forget to click like on this video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications icon so you will get notified when we release future videos. And as always, thanks for watching.
Perfect.